Guys, it's official. EA has sold for a mouth-watering price of $55 billion to Saudi investment firms just 12 days before the release of Battlefield 6. This means that the company went now from being a public company to a private company. In this video today, we're going to discuss how this affects Battlefield 6, the Battlefield franchise in general, and the future of EA employees in the company currently. In a sentimental speech, the CEO of EA, Andrew Wilson, said that company's values will remain unchanged following the acquisition. He said this moment is a recognition of your creativity, your innovation, and your passion. You have built some of the world's most iconic IPs, created stories that have inspired global communities, and helped shape culture through interactive experiences. Our new partners bring deep experience across sports, gaming, and entertainment. They are committed with conviction to EA. They believe in our people, our leadership, and the long-term vision we are now building together. So what actually is the difference between a public company and a private company? So the old EA was a public company, which means it was owned by shareholders, promoters, and general investors. And now it's becoming a private company, which means it's going to be owned by management, founders, and private investors. Those private investors would be the Saudi firms which have now acquired EA. This means that they don't have to obey or follow the direction of shareholders and general investors. So let's say I held some stocks in EA when it was a public company. I invested, I don't know, 10 million euro. I would expect something to come out of it. So EA would be pressured to rush products as they have done in the past famously. And now with them becoming a private company, maybe this is not going to happen so often anymore. Now, because of this rather sudden sale and because it's happening so close to the release of Battlefield 6, many players in the Battlefield community are wondering how this is going to impact the launch of the game and the near future. I'm here to bring you the first good news. This transaction is expected to close in Q1 of fiscal year 2027. So Battlefield 6 is going to be largely unaffected, in my opinion, until 2027. There might be some shifts in direction toward the Saudi private investors' ideals and how they want to lead EA into the future, but the Battlefield 6 that was built by current EA and DICE is going to be what we get and what is going to remain for the foreseeable future. However, there is some other bad news. According to journalist Jason Schreier, the big immediate impact that will come for this new private EA would be being on the hook for the $20 billion they owe in debt that they amassed while they were a public company. This could mean mass layoffs, more aggressive monetization, and other big cost-cutting measures. But it goes even deeper than that, because Battlefield Bulletin posted that according to a new report from Financial Times, EA's new owners will rely on AI as a way to reduce production costs and increase EA's profits in the coming years, with the stated goal of absorbing the colossal $20 billion debt associated with the acquisition. With this information, we can potentially see where Battlefield 6 might land in trouble in the future. If Battlefield 6 undersells in 2025, now on launch day, and leading into 2026, as this is a live service game, it could mean that once this acquisition does happen, they could can a bunch of developers from Battlefield Studios, which is 4 studios combined into one. And we could lose some pretty precious people there, like maybe David Sirland, Drunks, UI designers, animators, map makers, and so on. It would halt, the development of Battlefield 6 into the future quite a bit. And if there were to be a new Battlefield game, let's say Battlefield 7, if they would lose their key people, this would mean, again, starting from zero, finding the correct people to make the game. It would be just a complete nightmare, in my opinion. This is where Battlefield 6 is, I think, at most danger. The other danger would be, let's say they keep all the developers and there is no mass layoffs and Battlefield 6 is a hugely successful game. Since the new private investors want to use AI, we might start seeing AI guns or AI soldiers somehow being used to kind of imitate Battlefield moments or something like this. Or we can have cringe AI ads like what the recent First Descendant was using with those fake streamers. So what are some of the benefits of EA going private then, Ace? It cannot all be bad, right? Well, you would be correct there. A couple months ago, I got contacted by an ex-DICE developer who worked in the studio during Star Wars Battlefield 2 and Battlefield 5 era. So think 2017 to 2019. He left when Battlefield 2042 got pitched. He told me that DICE developers themselves could be shareholders in the old public EA. And because of this, the communication between EA and DICE was horrible. EA didn't want to tell them anything because they were shareholders and they were afraid that they would do insider trading. So famously, for example, the Battlefield 5 developers didn't see the catastrophic Battlefield 5 launch trailer, you know the one I'm talking about, until we saw it, because of this reason. So now that developers, I assume, cannot be shareholders anymore, the communication between publisher and the developer could be much clearer, which I think is a very, very positive thing. It could also mean that we might finally get Star Wars Battlefront 3. couple months ago, Battlefront 2 had a huge resurgence and many people want to see a sequel to that franchise. EA never committed to it. Perhaps it was because they were a public company and the shareholders really didn't want that, right? So now it might happen. So the old franchises from EA, Star Wars, or maybe even Command & Conquer, Medal of Honor, question mark, there could be revivals of some of these old franchises. And shit, guys, sign me the fuck up for that. So here's what I found out about the companies who bought EA. First, the Saudi Public Investment Fund has been a very active player in the video gaming market since 2022, taking minority stakes in most scale public video gaming publishers. They own, for example, stakes in Nintendo and Nexon, the giants over in Asia. They also outright bought ESL, Faceit, and Scopely. So basically, these guys, they love their esports. This could mean that Battlefield, the franchise, probably not Battlefield 6, but the game after it, could have ESL and Faceit implemented, and we might get a competitive scene again in Battlefield like we had it over in Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3. If you aren't aware, there were many ESL matches happening over in BF3 and BF4. ESL 1, the huge tournament that is always happening on Counter-Strike Global Offensive and now Counter-Strike 2. I'm sorry, I'm not following Counter-Strike anymore, so I'm remembering Counter-Strike Global Offensive have this huge ESL 1 tournaments. And since these guys now own ESL, maybe we get ESL 1, Battlefield 7, Battle of Miraqueli final tournaments for 10 million euro. I know how people feel about having a competitive scene in the Battlefield franchise, which is inherently a very casual game, but I think for marketing it's maybe a good thing to have it. Who knows, we're gonna see how that plays out, but overall it's very interesting. The other big player is Affinity Partners, who will pay every EA stockholder $210 per share. Affinity Partners is run by current President of the United States, Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Hey, if you're still here, thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I would really appreciate if you would leave a like and a comment for the algorithm. If you're new here and you're enjoying this video, then consider subscribing. I will be pumping a bunch of content when Battlefield 6 is out. And speaking of Battlefield 6, here is a leak for the file sizes of the game. I cannot confirm whether this is real or not. It's just something that came up on Reddit, so I want to tell you that apparently you can choose whether you want to install the single player or the single player HD pack and so on. It's everything selectable, as you can see, which I think is a good thing. I will personally not play the single player, not initially anyway, maybe later when there's time, because I'm just going to invest myself in multiplayer as somebody who wants to play multiplayer and am a creator. Have to make videos, so it's going to be multiplayer only for a pretty long time. It's going to be 75 gigabytes you will need disk space. Maybe it's going to be smaller, maybe it's going to be larger, who knows, but you know, think about 50 to 100 gigabytes on your disk, so consider this your heads up once the preloads do start on October the 3rd. Them having 3 separate clients, I think, was a good idea. So if you don't want to play single player, why should it be taking 30-40 gigabytes from your system? Same goes with the BR. If you're not going to play the BR, what the hell do you need it for on your system? Or if for some reason you're not going to play the multiplayer and you only want to play the BR or the campaign, you have the same options. Good play by DICE. With that being said, guys, I'm going to close the video down here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Leave a like and a comment for the algorithm. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you guys probably on Wednesday. And if not on Wednesday, then on Friday. I also might throw a stream in between on Thursday. Take it easy. Have a great day. And I'll see you in the next Battlefield video. Bye-bye.